Hello and welcome to the ASB Investment Podcast, the show that keeps you up to date on the markets and helps you make smart choices with your investments. These are entirely our own views and that of our guests. It's not investment advice, but we know plenty of experts at ASB that will be happy to chat if you need. Well, hello and welcome to the ASB Investment Podcast. It's the show where we unpack the financial questions Kiwis are asking right now. And if you're anything like me, these will be the things that are top of mind for you and potentially part of conversations you're having in and around a multitude of locations, whether that's talking to friends, family, on first dates, during dental appointments, at the counter when visiting muffin break, or even the stranger you're forced to stand way too close to on the bus or train during your morning commute. I'm your host, Nigel Grant, and today's episode is all about TDs or term deposits. So if you've had a term deposit come up for a renewal recently, or you might have in the near future, you might have noticed rates aren't quite where they were a few months ago. After a couple of years of higher returns on TDs, interest rates are starting to drift a little bit lower, and that leaves a lot of savers asking, what should I do when my TD matures? Do I just roll it over, or are there better ways to make my money work harder? So to help us explore that, I'm joined by Ngaire Angus, our Head of Wealth Advisory Distribution Business. Welcome back, Ngaire. How are you?
Oh, kia ora, Nigel. Thank you very much for having me back. I'm really well, and we've had a fantastic week last week on the road.
We did.
Took our show on the road, which was awesome, to Tauranga and Hamilton. So, yeah, still really enjoying kind of the halo effect of that, being out and about and meeting clients and getting to hang out with our team in person, which is really cool. And then, of course, I'm off to Fiji tomorrow.
Oh,
so
lucky you.
Of course, life is pretty rosy.
Oh, it sounds well. Well, thank you for, I know you're halfway in the departure lounge, but thanks for joining us. That's wonderful. You could give up your last remaining hours in sunny, and it's just like Fiji here pretty much. So I'm glad you know.
Yeah, it hasn't been too bad, I have to say.
So let's start with the big picture. We've moved from, as I said in the intro, like from a period where rates were pretty high or relatively high to what they'd come from, largely because central banks were trying to cool inflation into an area where inflation is easing, the economy's slowing a bit, and then those same central banks are now lowering rates to kind of kickstart things in the economy. That means interest rates are continuing to come down. So to start off, what are you hearing from customers that your team are seeing around this situation?
Well, we speak to a lot of clients right throughout the year, so it doesn't really matter what's happening sort of economically, so whether interest rates are up or down, we are constantly being introduced to our customer base to kind of talk about how they can make their money work harder for them. The thing about when interest rates are dropping is that we generally see more savers, so fewer investors, people who are actually just really used to saving their money and getting really concerned about the return that they're going to achieve. Often these people are very reliant on that money for income. So, yeah, that's definitely of concern for that cohort. What we are finding is that more of these people are generally looking for alternative options. So, start to become a little bit more interested in how they might be able to preserve that money, how they might be able to grow that money for the future, because all of a sudden, you can't really rely on a 2 or 3% interest rate to kind of give you what you need to survive.
So a saver as such as someone who's just sort of uses savings accounts and maybe term deposits only. Is that how you guys sort of describe a saver?
Yeah, and who maybe have just short-term goals. So they haven't really been thinking, they might have long-term ambitions, so they know that their money needs to last for a wee while, but they haven't necessarily had the opportunity or taken the opportunity to sit down and really plan that out with an advisor or, with somebody that they trust, or, even you can do this on your own, to be honest. But it's actually about the long-term planning and thinking about how that little nest egg that you've got can either continue to grow. That's sort of the investment mindset. Mm-hmm. The savings mindset is kind of like just sort of squirreling it away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not necessarily thinking about how do you turn that pile of funds into something more substantial that's going to last for the long term.
So you're talking to, I guess, from what you described, that group of customers, you've got one group who are already investors and use kind of your service and some of our investment products, but you're also talking to another group of customers, as you say, the savers, who've always been very comfortable potentially saving only. Is it accurate to describe it they're sort of now starting to wonder if they should do more or do something different?
Yeah, exactly. So often when you see this dip in interest rates, that will be the trigger for people to start looking at alternatives. I would say that term deposits continues to be a really fantastic option for clients, and
Correct.
we would often have that as part of a structured long-term investment plan. We talked about last time the importance of having emergency funds and having funds that are easy to access, and term deposits can be really a fantastic option for those clients and for those funds, because it's very low risk in a sense that you can calculate exactly what your return's going to be. Like, there's no ups and downs for the duration of the term deposit. However, when they do mature, that's a really good time to take stock. And I think it's a chance to look at the bigger picture, look at the full picture, reassess your goals and your timeframes. What does that money need to achieve for you? If it is to have just short-term access to cash, or something that, doesn't keep you awake at night, then perfect. And we can maybe help you make those decisions either in branch or through our online channels. But it's just really important, I think, rather than just allowing or letting your term deposits roll over without really thinking about it, so they can be set to roll over automatically. That's a really good time to just take stock and have a chat to us.
So when rates are falling, a lot of people see that as a bit of a positive. You've got mortgage holders. These are sort of things that get all the talk in the media. So mortgage holders are getting relief. Businesses hopefully can borrow at lower rates. Retailers and I guess businesses as well can hopefully start to see some green shoots with more disposable income flowing through to what they're offering as such. But an often forgotten person in these periods is the TD holder. We know a lot of New Zealanders, as you've described, Ngaire, use TDs, and a significant amount of these people use it to provide an income. Now, our former colleague, who's now retired, John Smith, always talked about this group and the need to replace that working paycheck, right? Like, you go from getting one from your employer to who provides the next one in retirement. So, I want listeners to kind of understand your team don't just work with people building legacies or quote unquote the inheritance for the family. There's also people you work with to help them set up their weekly or fortnightly paycheck, right? That income in retirement. Is that a fair description?
Yeah, it is. And it surprises me how many people really struggle with that concept of, they've invested, they've saved, they've invested, they've grown their wealth, they've taken care of their sort of legacy, they know exactly what they're going to contribute to a family, whānau, charitable organisations, all that sort of stuff. They really struggle to pay themselves.
How can it? Is it like a guilt or?
I think it's really about breaking the habits of a lifetime, to be honest. So this is a real challenge. And particularly if you've grown up in an era where, money was really quite tight, and not only was it tight, but it was hard. It's hard earned throughout the generations. But I think we've gotten accustomed to living really well now. We have access to so much. In this day and age, like, we are absolutely living in a dream age when you compare to the way, quality of life 100, 200 years ago. I think I read that, you couldn't guarantee that you'd have, hot showers 100 years ago. Well, you probably couldn't. So, all of those things that we just take for granted, some of our, let's not say 100, let's make it 70 years ago. Some of our clients have really had to navigate some really difficult times. So just because they've got to an era in their life where they're no longer working, they've got really comfortable financially, that doesn't mean that they necessarily just shift their mindset and are easily able to start spending. So we also will challenge people to kind of enjoy themselves and enjoy their wealth, and to, that concept of paying themselves an income. Actually, it's a really good one because it takes the focus off I'm being indulgent to almost saying, I'm just paying myself now. So I'm no longer employed, I'm now paying myself, and that's a really easy mindset shift to
make.
I
guess for some people, the saver out there who might have thought that TDs or savings accounts are the only way, or the only way I'm comfortable deriving an income now that I'm not working, but your team, I guess, is the heart of your service. There's more ways to do that than just through saving, correct? Like providing and setting up an income.
Yeah, there is. And it's all about diversification and ensuring that they get the very best risk-adjusted return for their money. And, to achieve that, we do have to look at different asset classes. So There's absolutely a place for cash. There's absolutely a place for term deposits for most people. But then we also, if we want to make that money last a long time, because inflation is a real killer, particularly when it comes to the TDs and cash products, that if we want to protect that purchasing power and help it to grow so that we have that longevity, then we do look at other alternatives. And it's not just about kind of putting it all in shares. And I think that's what scares people. I mean, we were talking last week about the 1987 crash and how that still kind of reverberates in people's minds and memories about just the insane time back in the 80s that crash created. And it haunts people to this day. So there's a lot of education around how that occurred, why that occurred, and actually, when you're investing with us, and let's say it's in a managed fund, you're given the opportunity to invest in the world's best companies. Very different from, sort of having all your eggs in one basket in really kind of not very sound New Zealand companies, which is what kind of occurred back in the 80s.
And so if we go through some of the specifics, I guess, to help people, we look at TDs. We can't assume that everyone knows exactly what to do with TDs. What's some of the main options people have when a TD matures? We talk about, you can reinvest. There's things called laddering. I guess, what are the options there for people? Yeah,
so, I mean, that's right. You've got a couple of options. And depending on what the money's there for, you probably, if term deposits are the right vehicle for you, laddering is a really good option to enable you to kind of hedge the risk, I suppose, of interest rate changes.
Okay, so what do we mean by laddering?
So laddering is quite simple, really. It's just having separating out your funds and having them mature at different time frames. So it might be you have a term deposit mature in 90 days, maybe one matures in 6 months, another one for 12 months, 18 months, so on and so forth. So it's a bit like, if we flipped it, if you had a fixed housing term loan, then...
Or you break it up.
You sort of break it up into different timeframes. So again, you're kind of hedging those rates. So in a rising rate environment, maybe you can take advantage of, sort of lower interest rates and then maybe be thinking about the longer term. Who knows, because you don't know really where rates are going to top out. So, so laddering is just a simple way of spreading your term deposits over different timeframes. Yeah, it just gives you a little bit more flexibility, particularly if you need access to cash. So that is, if you are paying yourself an income, obviously, there are functions within term deposits that allow you to receive your interest on a different cadence. So it could be quarterly, could be monthly.
Quarterly or at the end. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's always good to, just have a reflection on that as well. What's really awesome these days is that you can get some great rates online. So we've got some fantastic digital tools. So, that makes it quite easy to, from the comfort of your own home, be looking at your options. So if you're
just sitting in your PJs checking TD rates, is it?
That's right.
It's
Why not?
Great evening.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you sort of have got a lot of control over, how to sort of flex with maturing term deposits. And then I think also, if you are aware, you'll get notified that your TDs are maturing. It's probably best to be starting to engage with a financial advisor with us before TDs mature, so that if you do roll them over, because what's you find more prevalent now is that they're locked away for at least 31 days. So once upon a time, many moons ago, you could just sort of waltz into the bank and say, I need my money, and maybe have the cash in your account sort of 5 days later. That's not really possible anymore. So most banks, you'll have to provide at least 31 days. Sometimes if it's a term fund, for example, like our PI funds, you actually can't access those funds until the maturity date. So there's a few little nuances that you have to be aware of.
And I guess something you said earlier in terms of diversification, I guess introducing that, that is an option, and speaking to someone to start that conversation. And I guess to go back to a point as well, I know there's almost like that sort of risk reset anxiety as well. I know we're kind of like, you're sort of, something's coming up and what do I do? There is no pressure to do anything.
Exactly.
So if you can just reset for, as Ngaire said, for a month, 90 days, whilst you prepare everything to have an advisor sort of led conversation. So you've always got that up your sleeve. No one's pressuring you to do anything. But do you want to talk a little bit about that kind of diversification thing? Starting your investment journey doesn't necessarily mean you're not going all in, right?
Exactly. And that's a really important point to make, Nigel, that actually what we're inviting you to do is have a conversation and we have a really comprehensive advice process, and part of the reason for that is to ensure that when we are sitting down, we're looking at long-term goals, we're looking at your financial position, what you want your money to achieve. We're not going to let you take any more risk. Like with us, we're pretty conservative, to be fair. We do not want clients to take any more risk than they are comfortable with. So that's a really critical point of the planning phase. So if in that planning phase you determine that the level of comfort that you have, you appreciate that you'll get a higher return in a different investment vehicle, but the critical thing to you is just having certainty over a return, then we will just more than likely just to stick with that term deposit
and that's
option.
I guess that's what a good advisor will listen to what the client's saying, right? Because I think in the Tauranga event we had last week, there was a couple sitting in front of me while we were talking, and they were, I think, in their 80s. And one of the key points they said was, we only do things that allow us to sleep well at night.
Yep.
And so they felt really, that they'd been helped through the process, but not asked to take on, not be anything they weren't. And I guess that's it's the heart of your process, right? Let's like just introducing people to things. If they want to take on more, fine. But it's a fact-finding process to help people find what type of investor they are, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think one of the critical parts of all of this is just, and I touched on this last time we got together, was just you've got to really know yourself. And we're kind of looking for those signs. We are kind of having those conversations about how do you respond in times of volatility. We'll talk about, would you be comfortable if if your investment balance was to reduce by 10%, 20%?
What would you do?
30%, yeah. At what point are you saying, that's it, I'm out? That's really important, because those are the times when people kind of make rash decisions. I'm going to say that, take an emotional behaviour. That's actually when you can lose money, and it's really tangible. It's the real thing. So we don't want to put anyone in that position.
And if someone's sort of never asked, if they're a saver, quote unquote, and they've never kind of done any work to find out what sort of an investor or mindset they might have, I'm sure sometimes feeling like you have to do that work whilst I've got a TD maturing, it can all feel overwhelming, right? Like, so I'll just roll these things.
Yeah.
To be clear, the process that you and your team work with clients on is all about trying to help them do the work to find that, right? Like it's a guided adventure rather than a DIY trip through Europe or something.
Yeah, that's right. A DIY trip through Europe sounds awesome.
Well, you're going to Fiji. Let's just get Fiji out the way first.
Yeah. We'll do that next. So I would also say that, hey, when we're talking about investing, we're talking 5 years plus. Okay, so so if somebody says, wow, I've learned a lot, it's a bit overwhelming, I'm not ready to make a decision, excellent. Because you don't need to decide, after 3 hours of talking to us. You need to be really comfortable and get very clear on what it is that you're doing. Where you're placing your money, how you can access it, what are we investing in, all of those sorts of things. So if that process, gosh, to be honest, sometimes that can take a couple of years.
Just in terms of the client, not from our side necessarily, but from the client getting comfortable and then working at their pace.
Working at their pace, involving the right people in there.
Could be family members.
Could be family members, children. It could be, accountants, solicitors, trustees, everybody getting really clear and comfortable on the pathway forward. So, if it takes a little while, it takes a little while.
So I know we started off talking a lot about, I guess the anchor of this episode is around TDs and what to do there. But I guess, the more I think about it, the really important part of it is your mindset, right? Like in terms of what's your plan, even having your mindset sorted as a TD user is critical. But is it really critical that that a couple, a trust, an organization or whoever has done some work to find that out before they talk to your team? Or I guess, is it okay to not know anything and start? Yeah,
I just think start where you're at.
Sure, and that could be anywhere.
It could be anywhere.
Right, okay.
Some people have very firm decisions and then change their mind once we start going through the process. Others, just really don't know. We've got, lotto winners, for example, who've maybe never had any money. They really genuinely don't know where to start. So we've kind of see all people and it is different strokes for different folks. I think because we've got a really good, strong system, we still get to the end result, right, by following that system and essentially helping to tease out what is the role that the money needs to play. What's the overall objective with the wealth plan?
Sure.
And, it's almost like, just identifying that and then working backwards.
And I guess if someone's been a saver all their life and only used TDs, they won't be embarrassed by a lack of knowledge speaking to your team, right? Like you don't have to know what the difference between this asset class or whatever. That it's almost like that's the job, or that's the perfect. Our job. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I mean, it is really specialised, and there is a lot to learn. So that is part of our job. So there's no need to feel afraid. If you do want to start to learn about this, though, there is so much information, and this podcast is brilliant because it sort of has a mix of, there'll be episodes here that kind of break everything right down in technical terms and sort of get really specific about various funds. There's a lot of information you can find on sorted.org. That's an awesome website. But really, for a lot of people, term deposits have felt like the really safe option, and they are safe. But as interest rates fall, there's definitely an opportunity to look at the broader wealth plan. Think about the wealth plan and what your money's going to do for you, not necessarily in terms of returns, but just what it's meant to achieve.
Sure. Because
there are going to be times right across that whole kind of savings and investment period where interest rates are going to be really strong, which is great. Returns are going to be really strong, but you're going to have the opposite as well.
Yeah, and before you leave that point, in terms of there is risk, even though people see it as I don't want to take on any risk, there is risk in sitting in cash, correct?
Correct.
So in terms of, it's whether you take that risk now, or sorry, I want to protect myself from taking any risk now, i.e. the balance doesn't really go down, but you're pushing that risk out later on, right, that you might not necessarily have enough to provide that paycheck, legacy, inheritance, or whatever you're thinking.
Could have had, exactly. So it's that opportunity cost that you just need to be aware of. And, like I've mentioned earlier, that part of your money does need to stay liquid. You're part of your wealth. You need to have access to cash, and that's what we kind of look at. We'll look at a spending plan for the next couple of years and make sure that you've got sufficient capital available, cash available, to be able to meet those needs.
Because as you've said, spending's okay.
Spending is important.
Right, okay.
What's it all for?
Yeah, correct.
Go and have a good time. But some of that money can be, apportioned for long-term growth if you've got a decent time horizon.
Sure. Okay. And no one, I guess one thing I've been looking at recently is no one expects you to be the professional investor straight out of the gate. Like it's the equivalent of never eating spicy food and then going to the menu and choosing the one that's got the 3 chili icon like straight away. Like no one's expecting you to do that.
No way, Jose.
It's like, asking my dad to eat 3 chili icon food it's not going to end well. So no one's expecting you to do that. It's all about starting slowly, right? And talking to an advisor and getting used to it.
Yes, indeed. And we've all got to start somewhere. And, we and I in particular, I feel really blessed that I get to learn from the likes of you, Nigel. I get to learn from the likes of Frank Jasper, who often talks about, he's been an investor for 30 plus years probably. I've got no idea how, he's a young man, but he does talk about, 20 years ago, reading books that have been written by people who work at BlackRock.
Yes.
And I think about, these are really deep technical investor kind of journals. Anyone who's kind of worth their salt in the game, they've read these Bibles, and I think he's still learning. That's somebody who's in the industry and still learning and still growing, and the technical knowledge that he's got is amazing. But we get to have the benefit of that. We get to package all that up and use that knowledge to have really good decisions made at the portfolio level, and then that means that we and our clients just need to really focus on what's the money for, how do we make sure it lasts, for the period that it needs to, and that it achieves all the ambitions that our clients have for it.
You can get up to speed with those things over time, but the most important thing to do is know yourself. And I think that's where your team helps. So to wrap up, if you could leave listeners with one thought or a couple of thoughts before they decide to do with, whether they've got a maturing TD coming up or they're years away from that, what would be is there one or is there a couple of key things that you'd leave listeners with?
Yeah, a couple of things is use that moment as an opportunity to check in and just review exactly what that money's there to do for you. You know, when interest rates fall, it's easy just to keep rolling things over, but it's actually the perfect time to make sure that your money's working hard for you, that you are aware of your options, and that you have actually been quite decisive about the choices that you're making.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you've got some long-term goals, that the strategy you've got is actually appropriate to meet those long-term goals.
And I like your laddering point. I think it's a really critical point that I think I'm not sure everyone knows about. You can ladder, and then it gives yourself an option every 6-12 months to do something with. There's no pressure as well. But I think the other key takeaway for me was there's risk in being safe.
Yes.
As weird as that sounds. And I think it's a good thing at the moment to look at what you think is safe, and maybe just ask and see what else is on the menu out there to help you out. So, when your TD matures, take a pause, look at the bigger picture, and think about whether diversifying, laddering, or a mix of both might be able to help your savings work smarter for the future. And with that, we're on to our regular wrap-up question. Ngaire, do you have something you've been reading, listening, or watching that you can recommend to listeners?
I do. So
great.
I've just finished. Actually, I listened to the audiobook from Gilbert Enoka, Become Unstoppable. Absolutely
former
awesome.
All Black psychologist, is it?
Well, actually, mental skills
coach. Okay.
Yep, got to be a bit careful about that description. Really phenomenal book. It was lovely to hear it in his voice. So he narrates the book, and yeah, lots of really good gems. I love that. And after each chapter, he's got a wedo, so a challenge. So he's got really practical tips on what to implement. One of the things he talked about in his career that is really a predeterminant for success. It's not mindset. We've talked a lot about mindset.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily. You can sort of be positive and have all the great thoughts, and you still may not be successful, to be honest. So that's not it.
Okay. So mindset's not enough.
Mindset on its own is not enough.
Okay.
So the key thing I took from his book is that it's the systems that are the critical element to success. So in his high performance career, and he's worked with amazing teams, All Blacks, Silver Ferns, oh my God, what are the cricketers called? Black Caps.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got it.
Go the Black Caps.
Yeah.
Global sports teams. So it's the systems, and then that sort of made me remember some of the key things from Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yeah.
And I've got
I think Will from BlackRock mentioned that the other day on the podcast. The other episode. Yeah.
I mean, that's a great book. You just need that handy, just to remind yourself. But we don't rise to the levels of our goals. We fall to the level of our system. So I think that's really
That's deep, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So take that away, because we're talking about creating a system for your money. And I think, if you don't have a system, we'll call it your plan, your system, whatever it is.
Yeah, a process that you go through, like controls.
Yes.
Okay.
Then you just really are leaving things to chance. So
I feel like there's a lot you've left hanging there, but what I'd like to do is potentially come back to that at a different episode, maybe like a system, for managing money. Because I feel like it's you've left a perfect it's like you're a book reviewer who's buried the lead and leaving people to go discover things. I haven't read or watched anything. We're doing this weekly now, so I'm running out of things to do. I was just going to comment that I watched the league test on Saturday night between Samoa and New Zealand.
That was
Sunday night.
That was exciting. That was exciting.
The tests, I should say, both games, the women's and the guys, were rip snorters. And then when you see that actually like 90% of the crowd out at Mount Smart were Samoan.
Who would have thought?
It's amazing. In terms of it's amazing to see sort of, that it really is kind of that wonderful melting pot of multicultural city. They could have, it was an away test for New Zealand, even though it was so I think
we've got the largest Polynesian sort of population in the world in Auckland. So there you go.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah. And we had a beautiful celebration of Niuean Language Week today, actually, at North Wharf.
I heard the music.
Absolutely wonderful. So, yeah.
ASB does a great job on that. So thanks for listening, everyone. And thanks to you, Ngaire, for joining us. I hope you have a good time in Fiji. We've talked about Samoa. We've talked about Fiji and the Niue. Are you off to Fiji now?
Yes. What else?
You're ticking them all off.
I'm going to have to do something, and maybe I need to go to Tonga next week.
Maybe, let us know how that goes.
Okay.
So thanks again, and fly safe. We'll talk to you again soon. I hope you enjoyed today's chat. But today's chat is all about education and ideas. It's not professional advice. So we just want to make sure that's really clear. Everyone's situation is different. There's a lot of information here you can use, but it's always worth talking to a financial advisor before making any major changes or decisions. So we always recommend that, and take today what we're saying with that in mind. And remember, you don't have to eat the hottest dish on the menu if you've never eaten spicy food before. Keep that in mind. And with that, as always, happy laddering in this instance, and it's bye for now. Thanks for listening to the ASB Investment Podcast. If you have any thoughts on this episode, or if there's anything you'd like us to discuss on a future show, get in touch with us at podcasts@asb.co.nz.